Hi, this is Ted. I'm going to be talking today about Bill Hamon's book he wrote, and it is called, what is it called? I have the wrong page in front of me. Let's see if I can find out what I got. As you can tell, I'm running today. I'm not biking, so I'm just going to be running around, and I'm actually waiting for my daughter to catch up. She's in another car. She's going to catch up with me. She's going to go running with me. Okay, let's see here. He writes prophets in his book, Prophets and Personal Prophecy, God's prophetic voice today. This comes from chapter 15, and that chapter is called Major Decisions and Geographical Moves. All right, this is personal prophecy, telling you when you can and when you shouldn't be moving. And this is important, so let's pay attention here. Please, pay up. First of all, before I get into this, okay, you've heard exegesis, reading out of Scripture. This is proper. You need to be reading out of Scripture, and there are ways to do that. There are really good ways of doing it, which include context, trying to learn about the entire book, trying to learn who wrote, why they wrote, trying to learn all kinds of stuff. It is a learning process. It's not always easy. All right. There's also eisegesis. That's reading what you want it to say or what you expect it to say and reading into the Scripture. Now, there's also something called narcigesis, which is basically reading yourself into everything good, of course, and nothing bad. And I'm making up something called method-jesu, which means that you read your stories that you like into the Scriptures, and that's what you're going to see in a lot of books. If you see a book about the Bible and it talks more about anything about the Bible or about the spiritual life, and you hear more stories than anything else, you're dealing with method-jesu. Okay, that's my own word that I'm making up. On the spot. Okay, good old Bill, he gives us two stories. The first one is about a camper. Woman, man, perhaps kids, they go camping and they park their vehicle in some place and realize she feels uncomfortable. This is not good. I don't like this place. Something gives me a creepy feeling. And eventually the husband does as well. So they decide to move. They move on to another campsite. That night, rocks came tumbling down from the cliff above and absolutely destroyed that campsite where they had been. Oh, this must be from God. Now, first of all, I don't have an issue with this. I'm going to critique this first story before I move on to the next one. It is very possible this all happened. I had a car accident years ago in 1975, and 20 minutes, half hour before the car accident, there are three of us in the car, I told the gas station lady, if you read in the newspaper tomorrow that there were three boys in a car accident, that's us. I fell asleep in the car, not driving, but I fell asleep in the car with the Bible in my lap, and I woke up the next day in the hospital with a guy next to me, all excited because he got to tell me that I was in a car accident. And he's like, oh, you were in a car accident. He was so excited and so thrilled. Anyway, so things like this happen, and I've thought about this for years. And is that prophecy that God gave me? I don't know. Or it could be subconsciously. I was picking up a lot of clues that my conscience wasn't. For example, I was handing over to a brand new driver. He's young at this. And who knows? There's several different theories I have about this. But the other thing is, a lot of times when we see stuff, we'll make comments like this. And I'll joke around about this kind of stuff a lot, making different comments, and it's rare. But occasionally, my comment will be spot on. It may have been completely coincidental. All right? It's possible. John Douglas writes in a book called Mindhunters. He's an FBI profiler. And I think he may have been one of the first to kind of change the way they did things by studying people who were serial killers and stuff. But he's a profiler. And one of the things that he said is you got to trust your gut. Because sometimes your subconscious is telling you stuff that your conscious is. And he gives a story of some guy who walks into an office building, walks into the office itself, some conference room, and he sees a package there and people are about ready to open. He says, "Watch out, it's a bomb." And he's just kidding around. He walks away, and sure enough, it was a bomb. This kind of stuff happens, and it happens regularly. I would not be surprised if some of you have had similar experiences where you're just not sure, but you said something that really happened. And is it God or is it not? Adolf Hitler, in a bunker, World War I, had a premonition. He had a strong feeling he should get up from his table and move to the other side of the bunker. He did. Minutes later, a bomb came in and killed everybody at the table he had been in. Adolf Hitler has dozens of times escaped assassination plots. He believed that he may have been protected by God himself. In other words, it says nothing. This is not something you can depend upon. You cannot be sure that this story, that this happening is always God. It might be just coincident, or it could be that your subconscious is picking up stuff that your conscience is not. I don't know, and I'm not going to say one way or the other. The second story he gives at the end of chapter 15 is a story about a man who was told by a prophet not to move, to stay in Indiana. And his pastor talks to his pastor says, yes, stay. And then he goes and he listens to and he talks to and gets a word of prophecy from Bill Hamon himself. And Bill Hamon himself must have given him a lot of prophecy, because later on he's going to sift through at least 4 pages of what Bill Hamon said, because Bill Hamon says, "Did you write down what I told you?" "Yes, I did. On page 4, it said I should stay where I'm at and not to give in to pressure to leave." Well, his company called up and said, "Hey, we'd like you to move to Chicago." And he did. And then he calls from Chicago, calls Bill, and he says, "I feel really bad. Something's just not working out here. I feel really crummy." And Bill says, "What did page 4 say?" Well, he didn't say page 4, but he says, did you write down my prophecy?" "Yes." And on page 4, it says, "I shouldn't go." All right, how about this one? Maybe you went and you felt like his prophet told you not to go, your pastor told you not to go, and Bill Hamon, of all people, told you not to go, so therefore, you're in the wrong space. So anything that goes wrong, you are going to feel bad about it, like you're disobeying God. It's terrible. He didn't disobey God. In fact, I have a brother who went out to California. He was going to move out to San Diego. He moved out 3 months. He was in his 20s. He and his wife, they moved to San Diego. They hated it. They moved back. They didn't need a prophet to tell them they were in the wrong spot. All right. Let me see. What else do I get out of this? There's so many things not said in this whole situation. What is the hard time he's going through? You know, sometimes a new job is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. There's so many things not said and so many things that could have happened. But of course, because Bill prophesied personally to him, he's got to obey the Lord. And Bill even puts a biblical text. You got to obey the Lord. No, this is not the word of the Lord. This is the word of 3 people who, at best, are giving advice. At the very best, are giving perhaps good advice. But no matter what, it's not from God. And why can't this guy learn on his own? You know, when you're in this kind of discipleship, you are being treated like little infants. You will never grow. You will stay in the infant stage for the rest of your life until you get out from underneath people telling you what to do and what God is telling you to do. Because they're not giving you what God is telling you to do. They are giving you what they think God is telling them. And what they think God is telling them is not from God. It's from their own hearts, their own spirits, and that is as far as it goes. At best, it could be good advice, only advice. Please don't take it for anything more than that. Because in the world of advice, you accept some, you reject others. Because not all advice is good advice. And these prophets, by setting themselves up as the word of the Lord, are doing far more damage than they are doing any good. Prophecy as we know it from the prophetic movement is abusive, controlling, and manipulative. And this is Ted. Have a good one. Yep. Okay, in conclusion, oh, my daughter's here. I better go. Bye.